Dear friends, the international public opinion arena has been particularly lively these past few days. On February 28th, Washington local time, which would be March 1st early morning Beijing time, Ukrainian President Zelensky was invited to the White House. Everyone thought he was going there to sign a mining agreement, but unexpectedly, Zelensky, President Trump, and Vice President Vance had a public argument. This argument lasted about 10 minutes and has become one of the hottest topics in the world these days. So it's clear that the conflict between the Zelensky government or his team and the Biden-Vance team is out in the open, right? Not making it public would have consequences, because everyone knows that Trump must retaliate, and the entire team prioritizes American interests. Principles and face are not important to them, right? What's important is the interest. So the benefit is that he wants to control Ukraine's future through this mineral to gain actual benefits. As a result, because of this argument, the agreement on February 28 seems not to have been signed, and Trump's senior officials invited him in advance. I didn't have a meal. The White House staff ate the meal of the Ukrainian delegation. Later, there was news that the cost of the Ukrainian delegation's visit to the US this time. The US government doesn't care. In the past, the US government paid for his visits to the US, but he doesn't care about this cost. This time, because this conflict is public. And then Trump is going to retaliate again. If he doesn't achieve his goal, he will take action. So looking at the latest news reports, the US has unilaterally decided to temporarily terminate aid for material exploration weapons. There is related financial support, right? This is the latest development. So how will the Ukrainian government respond to the suspension of military aid? We should look at Europe's reaction and what we see after the conflict between Zelensky and the Trump administration became public. Europe still supports this little Zelensky, right? Look at his itinerary, departing from Washington, leaving Washington, flying directly to London. Then the UK Prime Minister, Labour Starmer, met him at 10 Downing Street. You see, the action was hugging each other for a few seconds. He's a bit of a show-off. On the 2nd, London local time, taxi doctors also held a meeting, right? Leaders of major European countries were called to support the current Zelensky administration. In a sense, as I made public the conflict between the Ukrainian county government and the US, Europe is somewhat, towards US independence. Their gap is also separating. It's called transatlantic relations, now also being tested. In short, the development of this situation, these past few days have been very dramatic. So it's worth paying attention to what his next move will be. Even more worth paying attention to. From the information available so far, the attitude of major European countries still supports the Zelensky government to continue fighting. Now Trump's slogan is to win peace as soon as possible, right? To end the war as quickly as possible. So now it seems that the attitudes of the US and Europe are quite different, right? So Europe also made some gestures at the March 2nd meeting. For example, the UK gave the Zelensky government, the Zhejiang city government, a loan of over £2.1 billion, which has to be repaid. It's not like it's given to you for free. How to repay? It's said to be repaid with confiscated Russian assets, right? I think other countries have also made some pledges, so that's roughly the situation now. The Trump administration's attitude is clear that they want to stop the war as soon as possible. In the process of the barrier, he also wants to recover previous investments, right? Anyway, he always says I gave you $350 billion in aid. Therefore, yesterday the world's cars didn't count for half a day, so it gave me over $60 billion in equipment and over $30 billion in financial aid, a total of less than $1,000 and over $900 billion. Then say you're a bit unreasonable, right? Most of your aid should be donations, because I am fighting for you. I am defending Western democracy in the Western camp for you. It should be donations. The result must be $350 billion. I really didn't get that much. Now with interest it's going to be $500 billion. So for the car folder driver, signing this treaty is being a traitor. His political status is immediately not good. Everyone is nagging like this, right? At least Europe still supports this, and then most domestic people still support it. So making a fuss helps the continuation of his political life, but there is a cost, right? The result of this cost is that the US has at least temporarily terminated his military exercises and financial aid, so it's difficult for him below. Europe and Canada have promised to give this money. Frankly speaking, it can't support for long, right? especially this specific equipment and weapons. Without US weapons, can the European weapon system support its combat effectiveness? This is a big question mark. So anyway, the following plot. This sees Trump bragging in the campaign, saying first, if I were in office, there wouldn't be this war, right? Second, when I come to power, I will solve this problem in 24 hours, right? Later, after he came up, he also knew, that bragging was too big. Can't solve it in 24 hours. Therefore, he now has an idea. That is Easter. That is, the US and Western countries do not have Easter. They say Easter should solve. That is, this problem should be solved in about 100 days. Then one of the keys to solving this problem is that he wants to sacrifice Ukraine like pressure. But Europe's strong Zelensky still doesn't listen to him, so there will be problems with his coordination with Russia, right? In fact, Trump is a bit uncomfortable now. He bragged in China. He can't explain. As for Putin, he made a promise, but he can't fulfill it. This should be about the next step in solving the Ukrainian problem. According to Trump's solution, a huge challenge has been proposed. The latest news is that the Trump administration has suspended military and financial aid to Ukraine. It's hard to say whether this immediate effect can be produced, because in the past 3 years, the US and Europe have given a lot of aid. I think Japan has given a lot of aid. Ukraine should still have some things in hand to support, like 1 or 2 months. So, if this suspension lasts long, really making Ukraine's defeat like a mountain collapse, it's also a problem for Trump, right? If the war fails because of his actions, the opponent will definitely write articles about the Democratic Party's problems. So in fact, in the latest information, Trump has to suspend military and financial aid, which brings problems to Ukraine. In fact, this also puts pressure on Trump himself, so the future development still has a bit of variables.